As you can see, my trackpad tracks, my keyboard keys, and my MacBook fucks. Hey everybody, how's it going? So today we're going to be working on an A1466 MacBook Air that's not booting up. I'm going to open it up. We're going to see if we can make it work again. Alright, so what we do here is we figure out how much power the board by itself is taking. It's a really, really crappy charge port. For some reason it doesn't want to stick in the way it's supposed to. Come on. Stick in. There we go. Got 21 milliamps, but then nothing. No booting. No green light either. All right, let's take the board out of the case and see if we can figure out what's going on. But further, let's see if after unplugging everything in the device, if we get a different reaction. Now that we've unplugged everything from the machine, let's see if we get a different response. So we get a light in the charger now that we didn't get before. However, it's quite obvious that at 0 amps of amp draw, 0.000, this is not really going anywhere. So we do get a difference in the way it's working. But again, 0.000, that kind of brings it down. Now, I'm not going to go over every single thing from scratch because we've probably fixed like 200 of these in this channel at this point. Oh, what was that? I just saw this thing blink to a... What? Okay, well, there we go. It's fixed. It turns on. Bada bing, bada boom. We're done. All right, so let's figure out why this actually wasn't working. I'm going to take a wild guess as the keyboard of the trackpad is corroded. All right, so we fixed the computer. The MacBook has been fixed. All right, that'll be 325 right there. Now we're going to see if we can find anything else to charge for. See what else is in here. All right, this top case has been replaced. The trackpad cable has been replaced. Keyboard has not been replaced. Keyboard has corrosion on it. Okay, so they did almost everything they needed to. This was sent to us by another store, and I will include a description because I know that they most likely rather make the money themselves than send stuff out here in the future. And also this gentleman who sent this is a nice guy that on a lobbying trip actually drove us all the way back to New York. It was a 5-hour fucking drive, and he drove us back to New York. So that's I kind of owe him one. So as you can see over here, the keyboard, if I turn down the HDR a little bit, has corrosion on it. So we're just going to turn down the HDR and turn up the light so that you can see, because HDR obscures detail. This is why I usually avoid HDR. A lot of you prefer the HDR being on, but it really does obscure the detail. So when you look at it at an angle, can you see how one set of pins is a little bit more bluish, greenish than the rest? So they were on the right track. They were on the right track here because, as you can see, the keyboard, let's see, this over here, see this? This trackpad cable has been replaced. This is a different sticker. It doesn't look like it's the stock one. It looks like some sort of warranty sticker from some other company. And I think maybe they replaced the top case, but it's very likely that the top case that they actually purchased may have been faulty because it has this thing over here because it has this little crap on it. So let's go over how this could possibly stop everything from working, because this is something that is a really, really common issue with these machines, and when people go to fix them and don't realize how everything in them works. And it's kind of confusing. I mean, if you're doing this for the first time, you can't expect someone to get how all of this shit works from top to bottom. So let's open up a schematic in a board view and get it on the screen for you all to see. So this over here is the trackpad connector. Now remember, the keyboard on this computer goes to the trackpad, and the trackpad sends that to the computer. So if you look at this, the trackpad connector is going to have about 20 different connections on it. So we got the power button, SMC on off L, that's power button. But then you also have the ability to reset the SMC, SMC_LSOC_reset_L. Also do keep in mind that when you hold the power button down, that also resets the SMC. Now, as we've said in many of these videos, there's something called the one-wire circuit. In order to show you how the one-wire circuit works, I got to show you it on a different schematic, because in this schematic it's going to be confusing. So we'll open up a separate schematic for you over here. This is a really old circuit. We haven't been using one wire in a while now. But let's just find something over here. There we go. So this is how this works. So if you want the green light to turn on, this is the power jack. You have 18 volts over here, ground over here to complete the circuit, but in order to get that green light, you have something called one-wire protection. You have adapter sense, which they spelled adoptor because whoever made this was probably high. Again, this is an Apple schematic after all. Look, adapter sense with an O over there and adapter sense with an E over here. Nice proofreading, Apple. Anyway. Is it hard to imagine that this is why these people are designing computers with 52 volts going to the CPU? I mean, it's not a stretch. But anyway, going back to this. No, this window. There we go. Back to this. So this chip is here to protect something called the system management controller. So the SMC, which is on sys1 wire is going to be, let's just find that over here. Yeah, this is a data line going to U4900, which is the system management controller. That is going to, this chip over here is going to speak to the charger. Now, you have 18 volts over here. You have ground, and you have a 3-volt data line. Now, what if somebody drunk is trying to plug in their machine, right? Like, what if you got somebody who's doing this? Like, I'm so wasted. It's very likely, maybe, just maybe, that the little 18-volt part of the charger, happens to touch the part of the circuit that's expecting 3 volts for adapter sense. And that again, that's not something that would be good. That would be bad. So what this chip does, it kind of acts like a bouncer. It's like, okay, oh, you're 3 volts of data? Pass on through. Oh, you're 18 volts of pure DC voltage from the charger? No, stop here so you don't kill the system management controller. Now, the system management controller needs to not be in reset mode for that to happen. And that's, again, if you have the SMC reset being held down because there's corrosion by the trackpad, which has the power to reset the SMC, or it thinks that you're holding down the power button. If it thinks you're holding down the power button because, let's say, there's corrosion around the keyboard area, then it's going to keep the SMC in reset mode. Now, what happens with your computer? If you were to take your desktop computer and you were to hold down the reset button, not just tap it, but hold it down. What you notice if you hold it down is it never winds up posting. It never winds up boosting. It stays stuck in reset. Your fans are still spinning, but it's not doing anything. And the same thing is true with the SMC. It could be having power go through it, but it's not speaking to the charger, which is why you're not getting a green light. That's why we were able to get this machine to power up outside of the computer, but not inside the computer. Always make sure that before you assume that you have a motherboard problem, that it's not a parts problem. So we saw that the machine was not functioning properly when everything was plugged in. So the first thing I do is I unplug everything and then I plug it in to see if I can get it to turn on. If it does turn on when nothing is plugged in, then that means most likely we don't have a board problem, we have a parts problem. And that's why we investigated a little bit more. And the reason I look for that spot is because that's the only spot in the computer that's going to be able to reset the system management controller as one of the parts outside of the motherboard, and we found that. So this person most likely bought a top case or is using a top case that is faulty. And this is very, very common. Most people don't know to check under there because it's really hard to kind of see because it's hidden by the battery that's screwed in over it. But when you take the battery out, it's all revealed. You will often see corrosion on this cable over here, which is, again, I imagine why this one was replaced. And it's not as common that it gets over here. It really isn't that common that you get corrosion over there. Let's see. We may actually be able to make this work just by doing a little bit of cleaning over there. I have my doubts. I imagine that if enough got over there to make it look like that there is a possibility that this keyboard is not going to be salvageable. But there's really only one way to find out, right? So what we do, we just a little bit of rubbing. You can see there's some stuff that's coming off onto the Q-tip. The Q-tip is changing colors, which is to be expected here because this is kind of nasty. And we do that. Just give it a nice little once-over. Air dry. Just give it a few flicks. And we plug it into the trackpad, and I'll put the board back in here, and we'll see what happens. Actually, you know what? Yeah. It does look like this. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that trackpad looks bad. Okay, so they replaced the trackpad cable. Whoever did this replaced the trackpad cable, but they left that horrible-looking trackpad in there. Yeah, this trackpad looks horrible. Now, this is probably really stupid because you can buy these trackpads for like literally as low as, I don't know, probably $8 on eBay or something now since this machine has been discontinued for so long. But I am going to actually try and fix the trackpad at component level because I'm a madman. And I'm honestly, I really just don't want to get up to get another one. Because I have to, it was different when the store was like 500 or 600 square feet. when the store is like almost 2,400 square feet, to walk to the other side of the store is absolute hell. Also, the other room is colder than this room, so it's just, yeah, screw that. We're not, nice try. No way. No way, no way. So I'm going to see if I can fix this from the comfort of my nice warm desk over here, where I'm insulated from anything that may harm me. In my safe space where nobody can harm me. Big Clive is in the chat. Hello. Somebody said that won't work. Who says that won't work? Okay, I take that as a challenge then, you prick. Watch this, mofo. This is gonna work. I will fix this trackpad at component level just to prove you wrong. Okay, I gotta solder a trackpad. Also, hello to Big Clive. I just can't scroll at the moment, but if you say something, I'll say something back. We have hair royalty in here. We have somebody that actually understands electronics rather than just pretends to understand electronics. Actually, Big Clive, have you seen my guide? Check it out. This is what I use to teach people. Look at this. Look at this Microsoft Paint pathetic shit. So this is how I teach people what a DC to DC boost circuit works. You ready? Look at this. Unboosted 8 volts before the inductor, voltage after the inductor, voltage after smoothing. And I have this little Microsoft Paint put together thing. Oh wait, it gets better. It gets better. You want to see how I describe a data line? Here's a pull-up resistor. What happens to creating a data line without a resistor limit current? This is why we use pull-up resistors. And then I show you over here, like pull-up resistors, data line. This is my guide. That's the peak of professionalism right there. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna try a little bit of drag soldering this around, and I'm just gonna like file my nails. Now, I think Joanna Stern at Wall Street Journal is a lovely reporter. She put a lot of effort into the story she did here on Apple and Repair, and I appreciate it. But there's one thing that she said that offended me greatly to this day, that this is not like filing your nails. And this is exactly how I file my nails, with a T30-KN at 750 freedom units. So this is what you do over here. It's just like filing your nails. See? See? Ah. It's like filing your nails. Now, are we going to have some overlap here? Absolutely. Are there going to be bridges? Of course there's going to be bridges, but I don't care about getting rid of the bridges right now. What I care about is getting rid of the corrosion. The bridges will get rid of themselves in a moment. You'll see. It'll be beautiful. First thing I want to burn all that corrosion away with the nice flux that I put on here. And this nice new solder. All that corrosion that's sitting in between the pins, I want it to get burned up by that flaming hot solder. And it's going to get burned up by my flaming hot solder. There we go. There we go. All right. Then we'll focus on the bridges later. And yes, we are fixing a trackpad at component level. Somebody in chat said this wouldn't work. And I mean, listen, it's kind of like a dare. When somebody dares you, you can't really do much about it. So there was this one time I was at the gym, and there was this pretty hot personal trainer at the time. I had like a mild crush on, and I was gonna ask her out, and she walked right by as I was ordering something, but I was in the middle of making my order, so I didn't ask her out. And my trainer thought that was an excuse, so he told me, "Pussy." And I mean, at that point, like, he called me a pussy. There was literally nothing I could do at that point. It's out of my hands. So I go downstairs to go ask her out. Me in my, stupid, crappy gym outfit, looking weird as I usually do. And she is standing right next to a man that is about 6 feet tall, that she's laughing and joking with. They're both laughing and joking together. I don't understand that. I don't understand the question. She's standing with a guy and they're laughing. And this guy looks like he's about 6 foot tall, maybe 250, 280 pounds of pure muscle. Whether or not this is steroid muscle or normal muscle, I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is that he probably benches 3 plates for sets of 15 as a warm-up. And I walk up to her and I forget what my pickup line is. I honestly don't remember what it was. But I asked her out right in the middle of the guy's conversation. I wasn't sure. I figured I'd figure out. If the guy was a boyfriend, I probably wouldn't be here right now. If he wasn't a boyfriend, well, at least then we'll figure out if she says yes or no based on that. She wound up saying yes, And then the guy looks at me and goes, "That's brave, bro. That's brave." And he shakes my hand and he's got a laugh and he's like, "I'm her trainer, by the way, not the boyfriend." And I'm like, "Yeah, I figured I would have been a pretzel by now." But at the point of that story is, you cannot, if somebody says that's not going to work or pussy, like at some point it doesn't matter how pedantic what it is that I'm doing is, it doesn't matter. You know, you said this is not going to work, so now I have to fix the trackpad. That actually didn't wind up working out. So there was this 1 month. This is a funny story, by the way. So there was this one month. The first date was really kind of eh. We went for a second date, and this is really stupid. So there was 1 month where I made more money on YouTube than I think I've ever made in my life, and I forget if it was like $18,000 or $22,000 or something. It was a combination of two things. The first was I got featured in CBC News, and that absolutely fucking exploded. And the second thing is that my basement was flooded that month. So a bunch of people, very, very kind people, when they heard that I lost about $10,000 in inventory, used the Super Chat function and other similar functions on YouTube. There used to be something other than Super Chat, and they donated a bunch of money. So it wound up being like my YouTube revenue that month, instead of being like $1,000 or $2,000, was $22,000. Now, I hadn't checked yet, so I didn't see that. Now, I was showing her a YouTube video on my phone. I go to the bathroom, I come back, and she says, "Oh, do you make much on YouTube?" And I said, "It's a small percentage of my income." Because again, like you thought it was going to be like $800 or $800, $1,500, $1,700, something like that. So I figured, yeah, like it's a percentage of my income. And then she has this really weird look on her face, and then she's really nice to me for the rest of the evening. I check my phone when I go back into it, and instead of being in the YouTube app, I'm now in the YouTube Analytics app on the revenue page. Meaning that I'm guessing while I was in the bathroom, some browsing took place. And then I see that I made over $20,000 that month. So she might have thought, when I said YouTube is a small percentage of my income, that instead of it being that it's usually like $800 to $1,200 at that point in time in my life, and that this was like some sort of fucking aberration that I didn't know about yet, that $20,000 a month was, quote, a small percentage of my income. And then I was wondering, and then like I wound up, I didn't find it to be that particularly interesting for a number of different reasons. She's not a bad person, just, not my type. And she wound up showing up at the store. Oh my God. Like when I broke up with her, he's like, well, I can't believe this, blah, blah, blah. She shows up at my work. She stays there until I leave. She offers to buy me lunch and all this other shit. She's talking for 40 minutes. Can we try again? Can we work it out? And it's like, yo, you weren't this interested in me before. Come on. You weren't that interested in me before. The funny thing is she had actually told my trainer, like, what, him? Because my trainer, I didn't know this, by the way. If I knew this, I would have never asked her out. But my trainer was trying to, talk me up to her so that she would say yes. And he was saying, one of my clients has a crush on you. And then she says, which one? And then he says, it was me. And she goes, what, him? He's like short and weird. Well, like, she's short and weird or something like that. And then he says, I can't believe. And then apparently one of the other people that works at that gym actually watches me on YouTube, was a fan. And I didn't know that. But one of the dudes that works the front counter at the gym was a fan. And he listened to this conversation. He's like, yo, I can't believe you just said that about him without knowing who he is. And she's like, what? What do you mean? But apparently they wound up, she felt shamed by that comment. But if it wasn't for that comment, she most likely would have said no to me asking her out on a date. And I likely would have been saved that entire funny story and all that misery. But it was actually worth it for the funny story. Like that, I'm going to take that story with me to my grave. But besides that, one thing that I'd like to go... The point of that story... I think... Where did I even start? Oh, yeah, the point of that story is that people do stupid things when a guy friend looks at them and says, pussy. And in my case, it was asking her out in front of the giant, roided-looking dude that could have crushed me with his thumb. And here, the other stupid thing I'm doing is somebody said that it was stupid to fix a trackpad. Yeah, somebody said I was stupid to be fixing a trackpad and that it's not going to work. I mean, because you said that, you've literally left me no choice. You've left me what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? It's good to see that you have thoughts, M450. I'm glad you have thoughts. It's good to see that you're thinking. I encourage everybody here to think. Everybody here should be thinking all the time. But yeah, that story fucks me up every time. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little bit more alcoholing and drying over there. By the way, Big Clive, just so you don't feel alone, there's somebody else in the chat over here that spells words like color and favor with a U. Mr. Paul Daniels is in the chat. Paul Daniels, meet Big Clive. Big Clive, meet Paul Daniels. Paul Daniels also has a YouTube channel. He's responsible for stuff like this software that allows the multimeter and the power supply to show up on screen. He also programmed this piece of lovely software over here that I use for showing the board views on screen. I used to use a program called Landrex TestLink, which was from 1995, and Paul Daniels put this all together from scratch. And by put together from scratch, I mean probably murdered Chlordite and stole his code and took credit for it. But, I mean, you know, small details, small details. See, you guys agree on that. Like, even though you're wrong, you agree on it, so you'll get along. Okay. So this pin over here actually looks like it has no pad. So my question then is, does that pin actually matter? And I'm hoping the answer is that it doesn't matter. Actually, no, that doesn't matter. Oh yeah, there's no pad. Okay, that's the anchor pin. There's another one on that side too. Never mind. Okay. Okay, I'm glad to know that you've heard of Paul Daniels and that you know who he is. This is good stuff. I'm glad you know who he is. Okay, now we're going to plug everything back in, see if this works. At this point, I would have fixed the trackpad and I fixed the keyboard solely because I did not feel like getting up. That is just, that's some good stubbornness right there. So let's see if we're able to still get a fan spin. I'm going to plug in this keyboard and this track. I plugged in the keyboard. We're going to plug in the trackpad and see how this works. This was a pedantic repair. Okay, the keyboard and the trackpad are now plugged in. First things first, let's see if we get a light in the charger and a fan spin, or if the SMC is still stuck in reset mode. 500 milliamps, baby. It is turning on. Next test that we're going to do is see if the actual keyboard works. If the keyboard works, that would be freaking amazing. Turn on, you MacBook. Turn on, MacBook. Oh, it's being a 3437. I hate what these things do. So the 3437 does this thing where it turns on, off, on, off, on, off, on. The 00165 doesn't do that. The 3209 doesn't do that. The 3023 doesn't do that. The 2838 doesn't do that. But this one does that. I replaced the keyboard by itself because I'm a cheapskate. And the money that it costs in labor to have somebody spend an hour replacing the keyboard is still worth it when the keyboards are like 15 bucks. And the top cases were, and they used to be more than 100. The other thing is people complain if you replace their top case. You can't replace their top case because they'll complain. They'll say, like mine had mine had a little scratch over here. And this one it looks perfect over here, but it has a little scratch over here. I want my money back. So it's just, fuck that. No, fuck that. We replaced the keyboard. I'm not replacing their case. I don't want anybody complaining or bitching in any way. Like, my scratch used to be over here, and now it's totally nice over here, but now I have a little scratch over here. Like, no, we're not playing that game. Fuck that. So, you may say, well, Lewis, why don't you buy a new one? You think there are new ones. That's adorable. They don't exist. So we're booting. I forgot to plug the battery in, so it is going to take a little bit to boot. It does boot slower when there's no battery, and then I'm just going to see if I can type anything in. Let's see if anything works when I type. I should be booting into my own operating system to test the keyboard, but that will be for the quality assurance people here. We have a quality assurance, quality control team that does all the reassembly and the cleaning and the looking through things, and I'm trying to be nice here. I don't want them to be out of a job. That would be mean. Paul Daniels understands. Replacing top cases is fraught with trauma due to clients being disturbed about the shifting of their scratches. I'm not kidding. That sadly is reality. I wish I was memeing. Okay, we're almost ready. Here we go. All right, never mind. False alarm. Spotlight search. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now, they have a program that makes sure that every single key works that they use. It actually, shows you once you do this, that every single key has worked and not input a function for another key. But, I mean, again, I don't want to put the quality assurance people out of business here. As you can see, my trackpad tracks, my keyboard keys, and my MacBook fucks. So that's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.